exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Dude, how'd you get stuck upside down in the chimney? I thought you lost some weight.
Oh, there were all kinds of things blocking my way down. I think even pieces of a crashed UFO. I don't want to be Santa anymore.
Well, how are we going to get presents to Tina, our producer, Peter, our YouTube tech and animator, our guests, and all of the listeners who deserve a present for their dedication to the show?
Well, Krampus will be coming along soon, and he can probably give me a swift boot to get out of the chimney.
Well, Krampus's hooves are pretty sharp. Better be careful. Save a glass of eggnog for me. I'm getting out of here and going back to the safety of the KCOR radio studios right now.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Oh, no. Krampus, no.
Well, that's it. Krampus got him.
I don't know. He gave me a good shove. I just wish he'd get off my chest now. I swear.
No, that's not Krampus. That's the old hag.
Oh, how'd you know? No, indeed. Oh, well, oh boy, what we won't do to entertain our audience, right?
Yeah, sure.
and I'm allergic to chimney dust.
Yeah, most people are. You'd never be a chimney sweep, would you?
No. And well, I was going to say something about my nuts in the stocking, but I'll let it. No, yeah. I'll let it go. I'll let it go at that. Boy, I guess it's people are crazy out here shopping. I just went down to the local deli and two people shoved me out of the way. I don't know where they thought the sales was. Then they disappeared. Didn't they disappear down Fifth Avenue? They were carrying so many bundles. I don't know where people get all this energy to do shopping. I'm glad I have PayPal. I send everybody a few dollars and let them get out there and hassle with the situation. But hey, enough of that. We're here with some holiday cheer for everyone, and we're going to have a really great show with two fabulous ladies, and I do mean fabulous. Oh. Santa would go down any chimney for these two. All right, now. Okay. Well, Tim, so how are you doing anyway?
I'm doing well. Just got the Christmas spirit, even though here in southern Indiana, it's not exactly Christmassy. It's more like early spring. The temperatures have been well above freezing. It's rainy. Definitely not going to have a white Christmas, at least for now.
Yeah, it's going to be the same here. It's going to be at 62 degrees. Well, somehow we'll manage it. Anyway, let us get on with the evening's festivities because we've got a long way to go. And why don't you tell us, Tim, who we're going to have on this evening here?
Oh, yes, it'll be my pleasure. Well, now we have both of our guests, our return visitors, and we're always happy to have Maria and Samantha with us. So we'll start out with Maria. Now, Maria D'Andrea is an internationally known professional psychic from Budapest, Hungary. Now, since early childhood, she has demonstrated high spiritual awareness and psychic ability. Over her lifetime as a spiritual leader, she has provided psychic guidance and enlightenment to many people, assisting them on their personal path of spiritual self-discovery. Now, Maria is known for a unique form of divination called rune casting. Now, this method was used by Vikings and Europeans to unlock information about the past, present, and future by tapping into the universal mind. Now,
no one's
Maria,
watching on it.
Maria is, I'm hearing voices, Tim. Maria is the author of such best-selling books as Heaven Sent Money Spells, Andrea's Positively Positive Spell Book, Evocations, Evoke the Power of Interdimensional Beings and Summon Spirits, and Psychic Magical Elixirs of Life, among others. And all of these, of course, are published by Tim Beckley's Inner Light Global Communications Publishing. Now, also,
and indeed, we get many requests from all over the world for Maria's books. In fact, she's working on a new one. I'm just going to start it after the New Year, and she'll have to tell you about that. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So I did mean to.
Okay. Yeah, you did. All right. Now, also with us tonight is Samantha Scarlette. Samantha is a alternative rock singer songwriter, and she is the host of the podcast Blackout, and is also the owner of MK Ultra 90 Clothing, and she's also an alternative model. Now, Samantha currently she refers to her genre of music as soft grunge, and her primary musical influence is 90s alternative rock and grunge music. Now, Samantha's music is available on iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon, Google Play, and more. Now, Samantha has always had an avid fascination with paranormal, conspiracies, and so forth. In 2005, she started a YouTube podcast with a friend dedicated to the She later went on to host. I
think Crumpus is still trying to get down the chimney.
It sounds like it. Samantha later went on to host I Want to Believe with Samantha Scarlette for Energy Rock Radio in 2016. Now, Samantha currently owns the clothing brand MK Ultra 90, which I had mentioned previously, and it focuses on t-shirts and accessories that play into themes of the paranormal and conspiracies, with shirts featuring tarot cards, the all-seeing eyes, and other symbols. Now, Samantha,
Hell, Tim, she looks good in anything. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Samantha currently lives in New York, and her hobbies and interests include listening to vinyls of 90s rock albums, meals at the plaza, body suspension, visiting art museums, yoga, meditation, and fitness. So I want to welcome both our guests tonight on Exploring the Yay!
Hey, here we are. It's like one big family, I think. Yeah. Hey, Maria, how you doing? It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you both for having me on the show again. We always have so much fun. You guys are so great, so it makes it a pleasure.
Oh, boy, keep saying that, and you'll be on more often. Yeah. Hey, so Maria, I saw you the other day, and in fact, it's kind of a known fact. We went to Atlantic City. And we came back with a pot of gold. We really used your psychic powers, and we cleaned out every slot machine, on the boardwalk. I think, right? I mean, I couldn't carry this satchel of cash. There was so much of it.
The suitcase.
I swear, big bag and that happens. That happens all the time when we go, But no, seriously, I know you've been working on quite a few projects, but we'll get to that later on. You told me, I think during a trip to the bar there in Atlantic City that Santa and Krampus are not exactly the same as they are here. That in Hungary, things that are a little bit different. Now, how is that exactly?
Well, first of all, I thought it was funny when they had that movie, which of course is fiction because it's a movie, but they do have Krampus in Hungary, but it's totally different. So the outlook is this. They have two different holidays. They have Santa, which is really Mikuláš in Hungarian, but they have Santa come December 6th. And then on Christmas, it's not connected to Santa. It's connected to the birth of Christ. So they have the angels bring the tree. So they're literally two separate holidays. So what they're doing on December 6th is the night before, the children put out like little shoes and, they make sure they, polish them and everything. And they put little shoes out and, they put them on the windowsill. And if they were good, then Mikuláš or Santa is going to put, fruit and candy and nuts and sometimes little toys in there. However,
and some palachinta.
Yeah, there you go. We make those all the time, you and I.
Yeah, that's a crepe. So, for people who don't know what that is, it's like a crepe with nuts inside or powdered sugar, or I like with the liquor.
Yeah.
Myself.
Mm-hmm. So
and Maria sometimes makes some for me so that I push her books a little bit more. But okay, so now does Santa in Hungary look like he does here? Does he carry a sack?
Well, yes and no. Carries a sack, yes, but it's like we have a thin Santa. I don't know why. Apparently, our Santa was on a diet. So we have a thinner version of him. But basically, like I was saying, what he does is he travels with two little evil goblins, and those two little goblins
really?
are called
wow. Yeah.
And they're called Krampus. So they all travel together. So when
what do they travel on?
Well, basically, they don't have a sleigh. Apparently, they ended up walking. So they just show up. They don't have a sleigh. They're magic. So what happens is they
do a little astral projection.
Right? Yeah. So he travels with these two little mean goblins that are called Krampus. So if you were really, really bad, what would happen is instead of getting candy and fruits and nuts and all sorts of little toys and things, what you would get is like coal or little switches because, after all, you were bad. So they look at it as nobody's perfect, so you always had both. And then depending on how good or bad you were, one was more than the other. We never knew which way it was going to go. But they didn't have that threat that they have on TV and the movies of Krampus. It was more on the level of you were supposed to be really good. Now, every now and then they would say that, Krampus might take you away if you were a bad little person. But they said it a little bit on a later level. It wasn't a real threat. They're not trying to scare kids. What they were trying to do is make them look at it as the better they are, the more toys and things they get, instead of the little switches. Okay, and then on Christmas it's different. Okay,
and there's no reindeer.
No reindeer.
So no red noses. No red noses.
No. Now what they do is on Christmas they have the grandparents and cousins and whoever watch the little kids, and then Christmas Eve the parents put the tree up so that the kids don't see it, and they put presents under it, and then they ring a little bell that basically says that the angels were here and they dropped off the tree, and now the kids can come and look at the tree and get their presents because the angels brought them. So it's a little bit different than here. Now, personally, I've never understood how they put Santa and Christmas together in this country. So if anybody knows, I would like to know because I don't get it. Because originally, German. Go ahead.
It seems that Christmas, varies in different parts of the world. I mean, I was just actually watching. I think it was on the History Channel the other day that the whole concept of Santa in the red suit and the jolly old man came around. Tim, do you know this? In like around 1850 or so, there was an artist, not a cartoonist, but a graphic artist, and he did, I think, a series of postcards. And it caught on. So that's really the image of Santa.
Yeah, it was really, I guess, like Coca-Cola back in the day that really gave us the modern day personification of Santa. You know, the fat guy in the red suit and the beard and all of that.
Well, so as long as children enjoy it. I know I always enjoyed the holidays growing up, and we had a Christmas tree. I haven't quite been in the spirit this year with all the things that are going on, but I watched. There was a Christmas parade on TV the other night, and that was enjoyable. And I wonder how people, like in warm countries, for example, it's kind of hard. We think of Christmas as snow and all of that, and of course it won't be this year, at least in this part of the country.
I was, and we can get Maria's take on this. I was just reading an interesting article about people's reports of actually seeing Santa Claus. Is mostly, kids, but I mean, a lot of them are now adults and swear that, they woke up one night and say like Santa Claus was, like looking in the door at him. One guy said that when he was a kid that he heard a noise downstairs and Santa Claus was down in the living room and he had kind of like a golden glow about him. But then when Santa Claus turned around and looked at him, he said he felt like that Santa Claus was like looking into his soul and that he didn't like it. But apparently
he's going to replace Slender Man.
Yeah, but apparently there are a number of actual reports of people seeing Santa Claus, which is interesting, considering that, and I mean they're seeing him as they expect to see him. I mean, all the reports, that they tend to come from, I guess, United States, but they report like the Coca-Cola version of Santa Claus.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Maria. Yeah.
I find on the shamanic level that we believe that we create thought forms. So sometimes through time, we create entities, deities, spirits, because we have so much focus on it, especially if it's a culture, a whole culture. We have so much focus on it that eventually we create it. So as an example, if you look at, say, the caveman time, okay, and they have this gigantic boulder, and there's a tidal wave coming, okay? Now, all these people see is that there's this gigantic rock and a tidal wave. So when the tidal wave hits, and it hits the rock, and it doesn't hit them, they're going to look at it as the rock protected them. They're going to start praying to it. They're going to make up a deity name. And through time, the more focus they put into that, they will actually create a deity or a thought form attached to that as a protector. And it's funny, when you look at generations down the line, they didn't understand where this thought form or this deity came from. And if they traced it back, it was just because they didn't understand that the tidal wave just getting rerouted by a rock. So now they came up with a deity, and if you don't know the story and you go where the rock is, you might actually see the deity because they created a thought form because there was so much focus on it. So you could do that with Santa because you have so many people focused on it.
Don't they call that
it's a real possibility as a thought form?
Yeah, Topra, right? Isn't that what the Tibetans used to refer to it? And you can create even there are people that have seen doubles of themselves and family members,
right.
And and all of that. And of course, there's a belief too that the UFO phenomena could some of these craft that we see have been created through mental imagery. And Tip, wasn't there even up in Canada? Didn't they have a seances, right? A group of seances, and they created a ghost, and they even gave it a name, and it was able to communicate with them. Yeah, Philip, right?
Yeah, the Philip phenomena, right.
Yeah. The only difference is that, on a shamanic level, we do it consciously, whereas most people, aren't aware that they're actually forming that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Maria, why didn't you explain? Why didn't you explain to our listeners exactly what a shaman is? Because now you're a psychic and you read tarot cards, and you've had all kinds of paranormal experiences. But some people, I think, when they think of the term shaman, they think of a Native American medicine man of some sort. But obviously, you were born in Hungary and you weren't born here. So, shamanism is all over the world, is it?
Oh yes, every culture has a shaman. If you look back, especially at tribal times, every culture has it. Whether they call it a shaman or they give it a different name, it's the same thing. The only difference is in Europe, because I'm a European shaman, it's different than in this country. So I find in this country, if somebody, as an example, is a wonderful healer, okay, and they're great at it, people assume that person is a shaman. No, that person's a healer.
All right, Maria, I'm going to have to interrupt you here because the shaman of commercials is calling us. So when we come back, it will be more Exploring the Bizarre. So stay tuned.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal, your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. And Tim, why don't we bring Samantha Scarlette back, or not back, into the conversation.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Sammy, how you doing, man? How you doing?
By the way, it's Scarlett. I just spell it weird so that it shows up in Google easier, but Scarlett.
All right.
Yeah, I'm having a very crazy day. I'm usually very quiet, and my life is really stress-free, and today was insane. And I had blocked out this time for you guys, and right now I have like an office kind of area in my apartment. I grabbed my computer like right when we got in air, and I brought it in my bedroom. I've got like two friends here on the headphone splitter, like they're listening. But right now there's like about, I'd say like 20 people in my 650 square foot Midtown penthouse. There's an unexpected party that a friend of mine decided to throw, who came over this afternoon around noon. I get this text message from a friend saying that he and my other friend that I'm really close with took acid, and they needed a safe place to come off of their acid trip. So I was like, okay, you can come over to my apartment. Well, they showed up with like 7 people. And the one friend, I can't name names, he was having a very bad trip. So this other girl that he's friends with and we were like literally cuddling him in bed the entire afternoon and like checking his temperature and making sure he's like checking the overdose signs. And he was like, oh, like, because I have a view of the world or the Empire State Building. He's like, oh, there's army tanks and military auxiliary in the sky in Midtown right now, and there's some rabbits.
Yeah, well, that's because
there's a movie playing.
That's because King Kong is up there.
Oh, we should have told him King Kong. And we were trying we were trying to calm him down, so we were telling him stories that he was surfing or something. But this is a very crazy day because I spent the majority of the afternoon getting a friend to come down off of acid, which I've personally never taken any type of psychedelic. So it was kind of amusing and interesting to see somebody on them and listen to it. But so and then after he got off his trip, he was like, oh, let's have a party here. And he invited all these people over. So right now it's kind of crazy. And I think I'm going to
as long as they don't as long as they don't spike the punch bowl. You know,
well,
I only tried.
there's
I
no
think I
acid. I
did
think
acid.
he did all the acid. He did all his
I think
acid
I
last
did
night.
acid. I did acid once, I think, and that was
You're
at a
crazy.
Jimi Hendrix concert. And
You're
you know,
dating
I
yourself
said,
right now.
I said I don't like this too much because I don't have. I like to be more in control of myself than have something being in control of
Yeah,
me. But
I can't do
it
it.
was a great experience. I mean, if you're going to see a live act, it was Dr. John, the Night Tripper, and he did the whole thing with the voodoo and the gree and the
Yeah.
glitter and sprinkled it over the audience, and that was wild. And then Jimi Hendrix came on, and the notes floated out of the speakers. I mean,
Wow. Did you
wow!
see them? You
Listen,
saw the
that's
note, probably.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's incredible.
I
And I said, I don't have to do this anymore.
I'm an
I had the ultimate acid experience, and I've never wanted to repeat it, especially since Jimi Hendrix is not here to perform for us. So how are you spending your holiday? I mean, are you
Well,
traveling this year?
I just want to preface, I am an absolute control freak. So I've never done illicit drugs. I mean, I've smoked weed, and even that, like, if I have weed and rosé, I can't, I'm like, that's too much for me. Like, I smoked weed and drank some rosé a couple weeks ago, and I was like thinking that the world was ending. So I can't even imagine if I were to take
Well,
any type of illicit
world,
drug.
the world was ending.
Yeah,
That's
Donald
just
Trump's in office.
uh,
No, I'm
the
joking.
world.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, the world was, like
Yeah, no,
ending. I'm sure.
but
But are
I
you
can't,
traveling? I know you do quite a bit of traveling. Are you
no,
traveling anywhere this
I
season?
haven't, I have not done any, I'm trying to think this year. I haven't actually traveled at all this year, other than last Christmas, I spent a month in Arizona, but ever since I came back from Arizona in January, I actually haven't been anywhere since, and I'm staying in New York for Christmas. I got this penthouse in August, and it's kind of like too expensive to go away from. Like, might as well be here for the holiday, and it's beautiful here. I've got my Christmas tree. I've got a fake tree in my living room that's white with black and baby blue ornaments to match all of my ultra modern decor. But it blows my mind because my next door neighbor, he has a real, like, 12-foot Christmas tree in his place, and the thought of bringing a actual tree up 44 floors is just insane to me.
Well, they can bring it up on a lift, like they
Yeah,
used to do
he
pianos. Yeah.
did the elevator, but still, I don't know. It just seems like too much of a pain in New York to get a Christmas tree, and people have to walk the trees to the building. I actually was in the subway last week, and I saw somebody with a Christmas tree in the subway, like, and it was a big tree. It was at least a 6-footer, and I'm just like, okay, you brought a Christmas tree on the subway.
Some of the people who grow grow Christmas trees or sell them on the street, they're complaining because you can now order live Christmas trees from Amazon, and so they bring it. You know, the delivery guy has to bring it into your apartment, and then you roll it out of the box and set it up. So did you always have a pretty big Christmas when you were growing up?
It depends. Like, when I was really little, and I lived in New Jersey, and my mom had a big family. Like, they were like kind of like that, like, quintessential East Coast WASP type of family. And so my aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody would get together at my grandmother's house, and we'd have a big Christmas. But when we moved to Arizona, no, it was usually just my mom and I. And so I honestly am not a big fan of the holidays. I kind of hate them because I actually like Christmas better than Thanksgiving, because on Christmas, if you're in an area where there's a lot of Jewish people, you can at least go to get kosher food on Christmas. But I don't like any day where everything's closed and you can't be around people.
I'm the same way. I don't like days that are red on the calendar. I make my own.
I'm more of a fan of New
holidays.
Year's. I like New Year's better because for me, New Year's, it's a social holiday. It's not religious. And I think of New Year's as new hope. There's a new chance for a new beginning in the new year. So I'm a bigger fan of New Year's than Christmas. I mean, of course, I can't diss Christmas because I loved Christmas as a child. I loved getting presents. But outside of the, consumer capitalist, materialistic version of Christmas, I'm not a huge fan of it.
So now, did you ever have Marie was talking about angels bringing the Christmas tree and all. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences that are linked to the holiday?
Linked to the holiday. Wow. I'm trying to think. Not that I know of. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember sitting in my grandmother's house in the sunroom with my cousins looking for like the Christmas star or whatever, which we thought we saw, like the Star of Bethlehem or whatever. But other than that, I mean, I can't really, and that wasn't paranormal. That's just like being 3 years old. I can't really think of any paranormal. Oh, actually, you know what? I lied. So back in, I think I might have mentioned a story about how I was like haunted by something that I know my ex-boyfriend Ryan brought upon me, and I don't know if Ryan had like demonic stuff attached to him or if it was his dead ex-girlfriend. But that year, 2000, and
as long as he didn't kill her.
No, he didn't kill her. She died in a she was riding a dune buggy on the beach and it flipped. Ooh. It was really sad. But back in 2013, the year that I broke up with Ryan, at Christmas in Arizona, my mom and I, when we lived there, we would always go to a hotel for Christmas. At least since I was like over 20, we'd always go to a hotel for Christmas, and we would take our English bulldog with us, and we used to have a golden retriever. When we had the golden retriever, we'd leave the doors closed, but the golden retriever had died that year. And when we got back from the hotel at Christmas, we get into our house, and my bedroom door I had left open because because the golden retriever is no longer with us, I made sure to leave the door open. When we got back, the door to my bedroom was it was shut all the way. The lock was engaged, and there was stuff overturned in the house, and nobody had broken into the house. It was just stuff in the house was displaced. And in the weeks following Christmas, we had doors slamming and other really weird stuff. So yeah, I actually did have a weird paranormal thing associated with Christmas. And I think it was because on Christmas, my mom and I reached out to my ex-boyfriend and wished him Merry Christmas, and he got back to us, and all the paranormal activity that I had, it was after he and I broke up, was always associated with a time when I would get in touch with him. If he and I were in contact, weird shit would start happening around the house or wherever I was. So yeah, I did have a paranormal, now that I think about it, I did have a Christmas paranormal experience.
Well, now the paranormal, or the You started at an early age to have an interest in all of this?
Yeah, I mean that was not that long ago. That was 6 years ago, or 2013. But yeah, no, I've been interested in the paranormal almost as long as I can remember. Since I was 8 or 9, and I used to watch these TV shows that dealt with that subject matter.
And what would you say was the most powerful experience you might have had?
Me personally with the paranormal?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, because I've had different things over the years that I think, could be ghosts. But, I even the stuff I just mentioned, I'm sure there's logical examples of what it could be. I'll always be a skeptic until I see Marilyn Monroe in my living room in solid form. I'm going to always be a skeptic. But I mean, there's just little things over the years, and it makes you wonder, and it makes me, I've seen UFOs, but I think they were government crafts. So
what made you believe that? Why do you think they were government?
So when I lived in Arizona, which if everyone pretty much knows, in Arizona, kind of like Nevada and New Mexico, those are hotbeds for UFO sightings. And when I lived in Arizona, there were at least 3 or 4 occasions where I saw UFOs. Actually, I'm trying to think. Definitely 3 that stand out, at the top. No, actually, there's 4 that stand out. But out of the 4, there was only one that I think could have been something from another planet. The other ones were 110% U.S. military craft, because when you see a triangle formation and each light blinks out one by one and the last light blinks out over Luke Air Force Base, you know damn well that is not, that's not ET coming to see me. That's the U.S. government. That's them testing out military crafts. So unless there's an intergalactic port at Luke Air Force Base, I don't personally think that those were anything from another world. I think it's our government. I just when people go to Area 51 and see craft, I don't believe that those are aliens. I think that's just the government testing stuff. Dulce, I don't know, because the whole story of the UFO or the alien war. So
yeah. Well,
sorry if I'm incoherent, because I to deal with everything today, I did have a couple shots of Jack Daniels, which once again, this is not in my nature.
Hey,
My friend that's here has brought out the devil in me.
Just before we left the office, Tim Swartz there was making up a whole batch of eggnog, weren't you, Tim?
Well, if you're bored,
oh no!
I believe one of you lives in my neighborhood. If you are bored and want to come to a penthouse party and hang out with a bunch of millennials and Generation Z people afterwards, you are welcome.
You'll slip me acid.
I'm sure he can get an acid tap for you. I'm not doing anything. The funny part is though, I'm into all the alt rock. I think they're playing mumble rap. So if you guys want to listen to some over and enjoy some SoundCloud mumble rap,
what kind of rock is that?
No, mumble, like SoundCloud mumble rap. Like I'm making a joke. I don't listen to this stuff, but it's like when you have friends over that are into the whole.
I spent 3 hours. I spent 3 hours last night watching a tribute to Greg Allman. I mean, that's
more my speed. That's more my speed. Well, no, literally, there's someone at this party. There's someone at this party that's wearing a Nirvana shirt, and I asked them, "What's your favorite Nirvana song?" And they couldn't tell me one. They couldn't even tell me "Smells Like Teen Spirit." What?
Yeah, that's a little bit after my era. I'm still into Led Zeppelin and Traffic and Humble Pie and those classic bands. So
David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie. Well, I met David Bowie, of course, and we're working on a book now about my late friend Wally Elmlark, the White Witch of New York, who befriended a lot of these musicians. And I've actually found, I went back and she's been deceased now since the late 1970s. And I went back and I tried to find people who knew her, and I even ran across people that I haven't talked to in over 40 years. I found them, believe it or not, on Facebook. It was amazing, and so now we've got a lot of great material that we didn't have before. It's kind of a combination of an occult book and a book on celebrities, because David Bowie had this experience where his swimming pool was possessed. That there was
how was his swimming pool possessed? Did somebody die in it?
He was living in LA at the time, and he was doing a lot of drugs. I mean, he admits that he was taking a vast amount of cocaine on a regular basis. But apparently there was a movement in the swimming pool, like a demon was forming, and they could see the face on the bottom of the pool.
That's disturbing.
And my friend Wally, he requested that she do a spell for him to get rid of the demon, and also too, he thought that 3 witches were trying to collect his sperm and create a demon baby.
Oh, so, that's nice. That sounds like like Rosemary's Baby, but with David Bowie.
Yes, with David Bowie, yes. But there are a lot of celebrities, and that I've met over the years that have been into this subject from one degree to another. And Bowie had, of course, we know him as Ziggy Stardust. That's when I first met him, and he was interested in UFOs. In fact, as a lad there in England, he actually had 3 or 4 UFO sightings, and he thought that they were interdimensional craft. Then he got into Dion Fortune and Aleister Crowley, and did the whole occult trip. And Wally had gone out. My friend Wally Elmlark, the White Witch there, she of New York, she went to England and recorded an album with Robert Fripp from King Crimson. Which they lost. Apparently, the tapes disappeared. One side was instrumental with Fripp and Brian Eno, and the other side was someone interviewing Wally. And she believed that we were living in a time in history that there were a lot of souls being reincarnated to help lift the vibration of the planet. Sort of the Star Child concept.
So kind of like the twin flame revolution type of stuff.
Yeah, she believed that David Bowie and Mark Bolan and some of these other Jimi Hendrix, of course, some of these other musicians were part to the Star Child, that they were coming here to lift our vibes. I don't know, as I say in the book, I don't know exactly how successful they were, because I guess they've all passed away now. I mean, they certainly did have a
well, I've
a
heard, if you follow a lot of the twin flame stuff on YouTube, which I sometimes go down that rabbit hole, but I think that stuff's really, really toxic and pushes a lot of really unhealthy viewpoints and can contribute to people like thinking things that aren't there. A lot of these people say that like right now there's all these twin flames reincarnating for the ascension into like another dimension or some shit. So
yeah.
So well, I totally.
Have you been up? You were living in Arizona. Did you ever go up to Sedona?
Of course. I haven't been to Sedona in a long time, but Sedona has a trip because you literally go, okay, like in New York, there's a Starbucks on every corner. In Arizona, there is not in Arizona, but in Sedona, there's like a crystal shop and a psychic reader on every corner, which actually here in New York, there's a psychic reader on every corner. But the ones here are the type that will tell you, you give me $400 and I'll lift the curse off you. The ones there in Sedona are actual, like, not that they're necessarily real, but they're actual, like, I'm reading your tarot cards, we're going to the vortex, like, type of psychic.
Well, I've had two psychic experiences in Sedona. Well, maybe more than that, but two of them, and they both took place in the parking lot of the Coffee Pot.
Really? I can't remember the place, but there was like the big bookshop or something where you went, and there was like all the psychics. I remember going there with my friend when I was like 16. And I have to say, the one psychic who went to, her name was Kabira. She's dead now. She was correct because she, my friend asked if she would ever meet Skrillex, who back then wasn't Skrillex, the like pop EDM person. He was a rock musician back then. She was a huge fan of him. She asked, will I ever meet him? And the psychic said, you're going to meet him the first week of October. So fast forward like a month later, his band announced tour dates. They played Arizona the first week of October, and she got to meet him and get her picture with him. So that was something that actually came true, and there's absolutely no way that this psychic could have known the tour dates were from first to last, like months in advance. So, I mean, that was cool. But then there was another psychic we went to who we didn't even get a reading from because she scared the hell out of us. She had just this horrible, negative, bad energy vibe that we were so scared because we were up there with my mom. I was 16. We actually asked my mom to please leave Sedona, and we left the next day because we were supposed to stay for a couple days. We were just so scared of this one psychic. She just creeped us out.
Well, there's a fellow up there that we've written about, spent some time with him, and he's got a whole photo album that he's taken of these weird objects in the sky, most of which seem to be, interdimensional as opposed to spacecraft. But when you say, interdimensional, I don't know what that means exactly. Parallel universes. It could be from other planets that they're crossing through. The vortexes in Sedona, because there's supposed to be, 6 or 7 of them there, and they've had. They would take photographs, and they have all these orbs would appear. And they had a couple of, there was one area there, the Bradshaw Ranch, where these things were being seen on a regular basis, and they'd go out at night, and all these weird glowing objects, would appear, and then they'd take the camera and take photographs, and things would show up on the photograph that they didn't even see, but they had distinct shapes. I mean, it wasn't just like some. A flaw on the film or digital or whatever, however you would do it now. I mean, but Tim, you and I have. I mean, we've written about that and discussed that over the years, all the activities in Sedona.
Yes, well, Sedona is a hotbed for UFOs.
Yeah,
more so than Phoenix, but I think it's all of the Southwest for some reason. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just that the military, like my thought, the military likes to use it to conduct the tests because the weather temperament is pretty good there. There's not a whole lot, you don't have to deal with hurricanes or anything drastic other than that California has earthquakes. But Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico have great weather conditions most of the year. But then maybe it's that the aliens like going there because it reminds them of Mars. Who the hell knows?
Well, from the airplane, I've been over parts of like Arizona and the couple of states there, Nevada, and it looks like Mars. If you wanted to do a fake Martian landing,
well,
that's what it looks like from the air.
The thought is that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing either on a soundstage somewhere or that he filmed it in the Nevada desert, which I would not doubt. I'm one of those people, and it's funny because we were all watching after my friend got off his acid trip. We were all watching Eyes Wide Shut tonight. But I'm a big believer in the fact that Stanley Kubrick probably did direct the moon landing.
Well, that's an interesting theory. I mean, I've seen the same evidence. I don't know. I kind of think that we actually went to the moon, but it is strange. It is strange that we haven't gone back there. We're coming up on a commercial break, and when we come back, Maria is actually going to tell us a UFO experience of someone she knew who was an American Indian a shaman, a chief wise owl. So she started telling me the story while we were in Atlantic City, but there'll be more details to it, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to the second hour of Exploring the Bizarre, and we're just having a great time tonight. Our guests are Samantha Scarlette and Maria Andrea. And Maria, why don't you finish? We had asked you before about shamanism, and we had to cut you off with a commercial when you were giving that explanation. So why don't you continue that explanation so people at home won't be saying, finish it! I know I hate that. I hate that when I'm listening to a show and somebody asks a question and it's really interesting, the explanation, then they go to a break, and then when they come back, they're on a completely different subject. So I want you to I want you to have the opportunity to finish your train of thought.
Okay. So what I was saying was it's a little different in this country because a lot of times people are experts, truly experts in some area, whether it's paranormal or healing or some other area, psychic. And because they're very good at one thing, people assume that they're shaman, and they're not. So shamanism in Europe, well, in Hungary, is very different because you have to think it originated in tribal times, which means a shaman, it has to be able to do everything. If you can't do everything, you're not a shaman, right? So that means you have to be a healer. I do healing. You have to be able to do prophecy for the tribe. You know, one of those things where it says you hang a left of the tree because if you go right, it's quicksand, right? So I do reading. You have to be a spiritual leader in the tribe. I'm an interfaith minister. You have to be able to do weapons. People don't think of shamans like that, but if you're in Europe, if you're a shaman and you don't know weapons, you're dead. So it's a little bit different.
Right.
So as an example, I do archery, I do martial arts, and then, of course, I do things I'm always working with the paranormal because we're supposed to be able to understand herbs and gemstones and deal with different things to attract positive things into your life and to get rid of negative things in a positive way because I'm always saying I only do positive because I truly believe in karma. So I don't do anything in a negative way, and Tim knows we used to talk about it that all those books that I have out, or if I have some chapter in somebody else's book, I don't write negative because I only teach the positive. Doesn't mean we don't know negative, because how else are you going to counteract it? But I don't teach that, So it's very different. You really need to be able to do everything. So I always laugh. In fact, both my sons are in professions, but they both do healing and manifesting, and they do all this because they grew up with me. And it's really funny, because if I go somewhere and I say to them, well, do you want to know where I'm going, because I'm by myself, and just in case. And they always just laugh at me, because they basically tell me that they're not really worried about me. They're worried about anybody else around me. So they say, if there's a problem, I need to remember that they love me, but they don't have bail money for me.
Well, and
you have to know how to do all that.
Right. Well, okay, and I guess, Maria, that anytime, or not anytime, but a lot of times when you are on other shows, like radio shows, especially with hosts that haven't done their research on you, everyone seems to think that you're an expert on astrology.
Gotta love it. Now, the funny thing is, because we talked about this, is that I do everything on the planet except that. And it's not that I don't know astrology. Honestly, I know it, but what happens is it is too slow for me. So it's not that it's not a good field for people. It's just too slow for me, because apparently the universe skipped me on patience. So if I can do the runes and I can get a detailed reading in 2 seconds, I don't have the patience to look for a chart.
Yeah, but isn't it funny though how people go, so Maria, we see that you you do the runes and tarot cards. So what about my astrological sign? And no reply.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, well, I think we lost Maria, maybe.
You guys lost her. I'm here. I just unmuted for you guys.
Oh yeah, well, my producer is telling me that we did lose Maria. Okay, so I guess that we'll continue talking with Sammy here until until Maria comes back. See,
Go.
There she is. There she's back again. Well, see there.
You guys go.
See, there you go. I was making fun of your intimate knowledge of astrology, and
you and I talked about this. It was really funny. I was on a TV show, and I had to fill out a form ahead of time. What would you like to talk about? What is it that you do not want to talk about? The only thing I put was astrology, and that's the first thing the guy asked me about. I'm like, was that a practical joke? And it doesn't mean that I don't know it. It means that I don't want to do it because it's too slow for me.
Well, that's.
He actually got a little annoyed because he was expecting me to get on the air and go, duh.
It's like he's trying to catch you up on something.
Yeah, it was just funny because it's like, why would you ask me what do you not want to talk about? And then that's the only thing you bring up.
Right.
It's funny. But anyway, so shamanism is very different. But I find that if you look at the tribal aspect, like we were talking about my friend Chief Wise Owl, it's very different. And, Tim was, asking me about it when we were away. And unfortunately, Chief Wise Owl has now passed away years ago. And he was the chief of the Tuscarora tribe in the Carolinas. And we were really good friends for a long time. And he called me up one day and he was really upset. So it took him a couple minutes to calm down. And this is what happened. He was actually in the Inquirer, by the way, for being over 700 pounds. It wasn't for being a chief, but wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And he was telling me that he was riding in a van because of his weight. That's why I said it like that. And he was riding with some of the younger guys from the tribe. And as they were driving, he said the UFO landed. And he told them that they need to pull over because he needed to go and greet them with their normal, with their normal greeting for the UFOs. They actually had a greeting for hundreds of years for exactly what they're supposed to say when they first greet the UFOs, because it's that frequent. And he said he was very upset because the young guys looked at him, looked at the UFO, and took off.
Oh.
And he said he was very, very upset because he didn't understand what happened to the younger guys, because apparently they knew about the ritual. It was called the welcoming ritual. Mm-hmm. And they knew about it. Why weren't they expecting it? So he was very angry because he was saying he's the chief and nobody listened to him to let him off. And now when they landed, they didn't have anybody doing the welcoming ceremony.
Oh, that's too bad. We've had on our show before a lady who has done extensive interviews of the tribes, not only here in the United States, but in Central and South America as well, with their experiences dealing with UFOs and actually, contacts with the occupants. And a lot of the younger generations is kind of like the guys that you were just talking about. They tend to be, I suppose it's that modern influence. They tend to be freaked out when they have these experiences. But then the older members are a lot more, they still have, I guess, the stories handed down to them, by their grandfathers and great grandfathers on how to deal with these kind of situations.
Right, and
well, I had a friend, Chris, Chris Franz, and a couple of times we went out to the Navajo reservation in Arizona, Second Mesa, and they were having. We talked to some of the shamans, or at least one shaman that lived there, and they were having UFO contacts on a regular basis there, but they didn't like the fact after a while that it was something like the tribe had the contacts for many centuries, but then all of a sudden the outsiders started coming in and trying to bring down the space people, and it seemed that they were not having the same sort of contacts that they had previously had. That some of them were becoming rather negative. That maybe they had attracted a different group of ultra terrestrials or something, and so the whole thing broke up, and there was some discontent among the tribal members. But Maria, did he describe did he ever meet the occupants?
Oh, well, he did, but he didn't really describe them to me because that was very personal. It's like some things are within the tribe. The only reason he was telling me things is because, it's shaman to shaman. So, they'll tell me. And there are some things that I know that honestly we can't pass on to the public. It is, and I've been in the paranormal and the shamanic field pretty much all my life. So that's like with the books that we do, with him and with both of you, with the books that we do, they're all teaching books. So part of the books is we have that Yes You Can series, so that people can do things for themselves. And pretty much most of the books are on the level that it gives you information, but they always tell you things that you can do for yourself, because I truly believe the more you can do for yourself, the better the world gets, and the more people you can help around you. I think the difference is on a shamanic level is that most people, how can I put this? We see what everybody else does. The only difference is we see it in a different way or different perspective. So as an example, if we don't like something, we will change it because we work with energies and we work with the laws of nature. And we always look at it as there's an occult law that says like attracts like. So we use that consciously to make things happen or to avoid things. But again,
are there any spells that the listeners can do to make this a merrier holiday for them, a happier Christmas?
Oh, sure. Let's see. How How about something in finance? We can all use money, right?
No, not me. Certainly not. Yeah, yeah, of course. You're kidding.
Basically,
yeah.
We look at prosperity as kind of a never-ending stream of energy consciousness. So a lot of people understand it mentally, but you really have to know it, feel it, trust it. And especially when a negative situation comes up, that's when you really have to know that it's going to work. Okay, because I find that a lot of times when you look at abundance, we really just call it in. It's a little bit like throwing a fishing net as an example, made out of electrons, catching abundance energy and pulling it in for you. So we just do it consciously. So that was like a simple version. So this works, and I know you guys know about this because I've mentioned it before, but I think one of the easiest things for people to do that always works is that one I was telling you guys about with the lemon spell. Is that a good one, Tim? Guys?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Marie, it is.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Because otherwise I would just use something else. So this one always works. What you do, it's really easy. It's a vibrational level. So you go to the supermarket. We make it very easy and non-expensive. You go to the supermarket. You get a whole lemon. You make sure that it doesn't have any bruises or any cuts in it, which isn't as easy as it sounds. You take it home. You don't put it down on any flat surface. You can leave it in the supermarket bag. And what you do is you take it home and you either tie string around it with a loop because we don't put any holes in it, or you can get a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger, and the part where it has the shoulder part, you just bend them in towards each other so you form like a little basket. And then you still have the hook. So you take out the lemon from the supermarket bag, you put it into, that little basket, or you tie the string around it and you hang it up. Okay. Now, within 7 to 10 days after you hang it up, you'll either have money coming in or the opportunity to make money. It takes within 7 to 10 days. Now you have to leave it up until it gets all dried out, which takes longer. Once it gets all dried out, you take that and you throw it away outside your home. If you throw it away in your home, you just canceled everything. So you always throw it away outside your home. If you're in an apartment, you can throw it away in your building, but still outside your apartment. And the thing is that we never know how it's going to come in. So I had a gentleman, one of my clients was doing this, and he got a promotion. He was making major money. Everything just moved up for him. And then I had another client, and he found like $1 on the street, and he called me up, and he's like, "This is it." I'm like, we never know how. And then once you go through that, you can just go out and get another lemon. I always laugh because obviously in the spiritual field that I'm in, I don't have a paycheck and a 9-to-5 job. And I tell people I've never not made a bill or gotten ahead because I use all these little tools, and it really works. So people that are not open to spiritual things or understanding working with energy, I can't explain to them how I survive and I'm always moving ahead. Some things you just have to know. Now, the reason I like the lemon spell is this. Once you have an experience with something working, then if you try something different or something else, you're going to expect it to work more because you've already had the experience. So that makes sense, right? The more you do it, the more you trust it, and it becomes a circle, and you attract it more. Because literally, it's just an energy stream. And everything in the universe is made up of energy, including us. Spirits, like, when I'm talking to people that, as an example, passed away, or spirits that have never incarnated, or familiars or anything else that we're working with, okay, everything is just different vibrational levels of energy. Like the planet vibrates to 100,000 cycles per second. Okay, now, with people, when we're doing healing, our energy matches that of the planet because we work with scientists and they can actually test it. Normally, it's about 80, 90 instead of 100. So everything's vibrational and energy.
I believe that. I'm a big practitioner of the law of attraction. So I try to do my manifestations. I'll listen to videos. I have the the subliminals and the binaurals to try to make things happen. And sometimes it works. Sometimes I definitely feel that the law of attraction works. So I totally believe that everything is on a vibrating frequency.
Oh yeah, Maria, do you burn like a specific colored candles when you do rituals?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. Like the lemon just needs lemon. You know, a lot of what I do, because I've been doing this all my life, is more direct. I don't really always use tools. Okay, but the tools also, first of all, give you focus, because if you don't have willpower and you don't expect it to happen, you know, we create what we think. So if you're going to try a ritual and you're thinking, well, it probably won't work, I will guarantee it won't work because you already canceled it out.
I tried.
Right. The other thing I was going to say was that anytime that I do anything teaching it or anything that I do that deals with elementals or the spiritual plane or the paranormal, I always tell people you need to use some form of psychic self-defense. It doesn't matter if people learn from me, my books, or the guy down the road. As long as you use some form of protection, because you're opening a portal, a doorway between the vibrational energies or the realms between man and spirit. So if you're opening a doorway, even if you're calling in, say, a positive deity or a positive spirit, there's a doorway. Something can hitchhike in with it that you may not be expecting. So I'm always telling people you always learn psychic self-defense before you play with this, because it really can be dangerous.
It's funny that you were asking her about candles, because there's a store here in New York called Enchantments. It's the witchcraft store in the East Village. Yeah, and I got this. They're really awesome. It's kind of like going to a therapy session. You tell them what's going on, and they with the custom candles, and then they suggest one. So I got this white candle that it was for like uncrossing and to like settle stuff with a friend, and I burned it continuously for I think it burned for 6 days. And I have to say, I think it worked. I felt, as soon as I got the candle and I met with them at the store, I felt so much better about everything.
Oh, yeah, it really makes a difference. So, as an example, so say you're dealing with gemstones as an example, okay?
I mess with those too, yeah.
Right. But say you're creating like love, or you're trying to deal with something like travel, you're going to use a crystal, or you're going to use pearls or something silver. If you're working on business or divination, then you're working on agate. So, different stones have different vibrations, partly because of the color, partly because of the makeup of the stone itself. You know, like amethyst is very good for love. Now, this is funny. Amethyst is really, really good for parties because it changes the vibration. So, you're having a lot of fun, but you're safe. So if you went out in the car and you drove, you're still going to be safe. So it's just funny. Different vibrations work in different ways. You know, and the same thing with herbs. We use herbs all the time. So herbs, colors, candles, we pretty much use everything that's connected to nature. We connect with animals differently. And on the same level, if you're doing anything shamanic, you're really working with spirit animals, gemstones, and sometimes spirits that have never been in this realm, like archangels, different vibrational deities. So as a shaman, we don't really look at the religious aspect and look at it and say, okay, we're only dealing with calling in deities with this one particular religion. We look at whatever works at that time for that specific situation. Like I said, I'm an interfaith minister, but if I'm working on something pagan, I'm calling in a pagan deity. So it really depends on what you're working on. And I really feel that there's power in what you put out. In fact, we have one on the supernatural words of power, because whatever you say and you repeat, whether it's mentally to yourself or somebody else often enough, eventually you're going to create. Like, how people say, oh, I always have a headache. And then when they have a headache, they're the only ones that are surprised that they have one. Because we already knew that was coming in. The only difference is we're focused on positive things coming in.
All right. Well, let me interrupt you here because we are going to our bottom of the hour break. So when we come back, Tim, we will continue our conversation with Samantha and Maria. Yeah, and hopefully we'll learn some more amazing things about crystals and mind control and things like that. So stay tuned for more Exploring the Bizarre.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal. Your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
So, Tim, here we are at the bottom of the hour, less than a half hour left in the show. Always, when we're having a good time, time just seems to fly.
Well, you could say we're having a party tonight.
There you go. That's right.
You're all here in my penthouse. You're all here in my penthouse partying, and thank God none of us are on acid.
Well, that's it's an interesting point there, Samantha, because your fashion line is called MK Ultra, and
they used acid for that, didn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, they actually, the CIA actually commissioned the Sandoz laboratories, the laboratory that invented LSD. They commissioned Sandoz to produce a million hits of acid for their MK Ultra experiments, and
thank you.
Most of the acid that came into the United States in the 1950s was distributed by the CIA.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things are supposedly CIA psyops. Most of the drugs.
Didn't they even release? Didn't they even release acid or some kind of a psychedelic into the subway system?
Oh God!
Supposedly in New York, they're
You're making me scared.
Oh, they've got that's you're talking about something that happened in the 50s.
Speaking of, I don't know when you mentioned.
Can you imagine being on the subway today with all these crazies out there?
I was going to say
taking acid. Yeah.
Speaking of, the friend of mine that took acid today, he was on the subway like a day ago, riding between the cars.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, at least he wasn't riding on top of them, because that used to be a.
That's a thing.
Subway surfing. Yeah, I haven't done that since I was about. I haven't done that since I was 14.
I can barely stand up when I'm holding the pole, let alone to try to stand on top of the car. Oh my God.
That wouldn't work. So what now, Samantha? You have a clothing line, and you model your. I mean, you have some very wonderful photographs of you on Facebook.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you model your own line? I mean, what is
for my clothing line? For my clothing line, I did like one piece of the line that isn't even actually for sale anymore. Is the only thing I really modeled for my clothing line. Mm-hmm. I used other people to model it, because I think it's kind of better not to. I don't know. It just seemed like a better extension of branding to use different models. So actually, if you look, most of the photos for my clothing line were shot like 3 years ago, and one of the models was Bam Margera's wife, Nikki Margera. She's gorgeous. And then this other girl named Katie, and then my friend Samantha, who's also named Samantha. They were the three models that I used for MK Ultra, and I think they did an awesome job. But yeah, most of my stuff is more like just fun shoots and stuff for my music when I do modeling. So.
Mm-hmm. Where are you performing anytime soon in the city?
No, I've been in the process of writing and recording new stuff. I recorded a song about a month ago that's tentatively titled Born to Love You. And then I was actually playing tonight for some friends in my lobby. We have a baby grand piano in the lobby, and so I've been composing on the baby grand, and this new song, which I think I'm gonna name it "Live Fast, Die Late" or something in that vein. I plan to record really soon. I'm just kind of fleshing it out. But kind of my game plan right now is I'm working on an EP, and then I'm going to film a music video and do some more stuff. So I'm focusing on music. I'm doing obviously my paranormal radio show, Blackout.
When is your radio show on?
So it's on tomorrow. It's on Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on Adobe Radio. But I have some other things in the works right now that I can't talk about. That I was actually on a phone call yesterday about. So I might be, to put it lightly, I might be moving on to some bigger and better things with that. So I'm hoping this pans out because it'd be very exciting. And if it does, I'll have to have you guys on as a guest.
I would be insulted if you didn't. You need your own reality show.
Oh, I would love to have a reality show. I think I should have had a reality show the last 2 weeks of my life. I think it would have been more. I think I would have had better. I would have had better ratings than Keeping Up with the Kardashians when you have.
You're much prettier too.
Well, yeah. When I have drunk male models trying to set my apartment on fire and stuff, it's funny. It's funny, and I've got crazy friends and a crazy life here in New York, and I can't wait for it to get quiet again.
That's what it's all about, living in New York. You were raised in New Jersey?
No, so I was born in New Jersey and I lived there till I was 6. Like I hate saying New Jersey because people have misconceptions about New Jersey. Where I'm from in New Jersey is Saddle River, which is like the Beverly Hills of New Jersey. There's been 3 reality shows shot in Saddle River because it's like Kimora Simmons, Rev Run, Ja Rule. Rosie O'Donnell lived down the street from me. But yeah, no, so I grew up there till I was 6. Then I lived in Arizona in Scottsdale, Paradise Valley for a long time. And I'd come back to New Jersey in the summer. And then I moved back in like 2013, 2014 to Saddle River. And then I just moved into the city in August. But I actually had lived in the city for briefly back in 2011 because my dad used to live. He actually lived in the same building I live in now, and he was always out of the country, so I would just assume his apartment when he wasn't here. But now I have my own place, and I love my apartment. Any place that has a view of I wake up every morning to the Empire State Building, and I go to sleep seeing the Empire State Building, so it's kind of amazing.
Well, I can't see anything now. Well, I never did have a view. If I go up to the roof, I can see the Empire State Building because I'm just a couple blocks away.
Like, yeah, we're neighbors, pretty much.
Now I'm being encroached by skyscrapers. I mean, on one end of the block, it's going to be 65 stories, and on the other end of the block, it's 55 stories. Yeah, and I have a vacant lot next to me, and I'm afraid
I feel you on that. Yeah, because I mean, where I live in Hudson Yards, and when my dad lived in this building, his view from his apartment was, it was unencroached, and the whole building, there was nothing around here that was tall, and now there's buildings. My building's huge. My building's like a 44-floor building. There's all these huge skyscrapers. Thankfully, the side that I'm on, facing east, there's nothing. And I've kind of sussed it out. I look at what's around. Thank God, I don't think there's any. They'd have to tear down some buildings to put something up. So I don't think there's any lots where they can build anything that's big enough to obstruct my view. But that is a legit.
I always wonder here. Somebody's paying a mucho money to have an apartment in a skyscraper, thinking that they have a great view of Manhattan, and then all of a sudden somebody's building a building in front of them, and they don't have the view anymore.
On my side of the building, it's unencroached, but like other people on the other side of the building, if you're the penthouse on the other side of the building, they don't really have much of a view anymore because of some of the new Hudson Yards development things. Like when this building opened where I live, you could see all the way down to like the Statue of Liberty, Lower Manhattan, unobstructed. And then now, because of these huge towers they put in, it's not like that anymore, which is, it's too bad. It's a shame.
Well, I've been in some apartments, like high rises or skyscrapers off of Central Park, what a gorgeous view, overlooking Central Park. Now that's the view.
I came so close to actually the apartment that I originally put in. There was 2 apartments I put in offers on before this one, and one of them was literally right on Central Park West, directly across the street from the Dakota. But that apartment was really small, and I'm thankful I didn't get it because it was street level, and I would have been freaked out.
No, you belong to be up in the clouds, baby.
I like being up in the clouds. Yeah, I like being on my 44th floor. Yeah. I mean, my only front up here is the Empire State Building, so it's nice.
I had the opportunity to hook up with a friend of mine, Natalie, Naz for short, who I haven't seen in over 40 years. She was in a band called Teenage Lust. And they played, this was many years ago. They played the Academy of Music, and she took me to a party that George Harrison gave, from the Beatles, for Ravi Shankar, the sitar player, and it was the first time I had Indian food, and it was at the I think it was the Carlisle Hotel.
Carlisle. Carlisle up on Central Park.
Yeah, it overlooks Central Park, and it was fabulous food and fabulous fun. And I hadn't when I started doing this book on my friend Wally, who was the White Witch to the rock and rollers. I started tracking down people that I hadn't seen in a while on Facebook. So we went out and hung till the bars closed, and it was good to hook up with. And she's had like paranormal experience. Of course, everybody back in those days did. I remember. I think she was telling me for a while. I always wondered why. She's always very bubbly and outgoing, but she always seemed hesitant to talk to me. And then one night, I think she told me, she said, "Well, I was a friend of Wally, and Wally believed in what do you call it, like reading minds and stuff like that. So she thought I could read her mind or something. Well, I don't know if you could read somebody's mind or not. How close they have to be. You know what I'm saying? If they're out of the room, suddenly you can't read it anymore. I don't know. Maria, do you read minds?
Sometimes, but it's usually with people. Well, yeah, but first of all, you ask permission, and it's usually with people that are adept at doing the same thing, so we can go back and forth a lot. But it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're on the other side of the planet. It has your location has nothing to do with the ability.
Because
it's kind of like riding an energy stream. It's like riding a wave.
I knew people. No, there was a fellow. Let me think if what his name was, Sonny Fox, who used to have a TV program in New York. I think it was Wonderama, like on Saturday or Sunday night. Now, he used to, and maybe I'm getting the story wrong because it's been a long time since he told me this. But when he was maybe held captive during the war, I don't remember the details. But he would send thoughts to his mother, and they would both like stare up at the moon, and he would throw his thoughts to the moon, and then it would bounce back to his mom. And of course, the moon is a very strong, force. And I've heard, other people say that they do the same thing. But
I used to do that. I used to do that when my son was in the Navy. My oldest son, Rick, and I do that with my other son, Rob. But when my oldest was in the Navy, he was on a ship, and I was focused on having him call me, right? And he calls me within a day, and I'm doing it for 2 or 3 days. He didn't call me, and so when he didn't call me, I'm sending it stronger. So I get a call from him days later, and now he's really annoyed at me. He's like, "Listen, I was on the ship. There is no phone." He says, "I couldn't call you until we landed until we got to port." He said, "Stop doing that. I hear you the first time. If I can't answer you, we're out at sea." So he was a little miffed by the time he actually called me. I just figured he wasn't getting around to answering me.
I would think that if I would think that if you had the ability to read somebody else's mind, you would have to first have some kind of, I don't know, physical contact with them first. You have that quantum connection or something.
No, you really don't.
Really?
You really don't.
Uh-huh.
No, you don't need the physical connection, but you need some form. Usually it works a lot better with people that are friends, family, people that are into the paranormal. So they can work with that energy stream, because it's kind of like, if you're switching stations on the radio, if you're switching channels on TV, just hitting the right frequency so you're in tune. So usually it's somebody else that can do that. And a lot of times in the beginning, you actually set up times to practice with each other. Not all the time. I'm saying, like if you have friends, as an example, that are into this and that have an ability, there are ways and practices that you can do it to, heighten the ability. So pretty much most of the things that we do, you can, you really can learn.
That's interesting.
Most people don't want to put the practice in.
Hey, Maria, you and I were on our trip there, started putting together a book that you're going to be coming out with. It's on witchcraft, the occult, and how to select your own familiar.
Familiar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, now, what exactly familiar? I mean, we think of witches, of course, and black cats, but there's more to it than that, right?
Reminds me of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're going to make that part of that Yes You Can series.
Yeah.
So that will make it easier for people. But basically, when you're looking at familiars, people don't realize they are power animals. Sometimes they're spirit animals. Sometimes physical. They're totems. So they come in a lot of different forms, and it's not always animals. So it can be an animal. It can be a spirit that's never incarnated. It could be a family member. People don't realize that. It could be mainly ancestors. So we contact in a different way. And on a shamanic point of view, they're looking at a lot of times as the more familiars that you have, the stronger your power gets, because it helps you against weaknesses like health or your mind, because you have to be really focused when you do a lot of things. And again, we always do protection first. But as an example, each animal has its own abilities and knowledge that you can gain from, and then you use it so you can work with it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, it's something that I'm not. It's something that I'm not too familiar with myself. So
you're not familiar with familiars.
See, I don't. It just spews forth from my mouth. I don't know. Sometimes it's just like uncanny. Yes.
Example. Okay, as an example, say you take okay, in Europe we're connected to different animals in different ways, but everybody has their own that they connect to. So as an example, if you're looking at a hawk, okay? If your spirit animal happens to be a hawk, then what it's doing is, if you look at the real animal or the real bird, you're going to look at what are the natural skills. So people always look at spirit animals when they go on Google. You're not supposed to look at spirit animals. You have to look at the real ones, because in real life, it's not the same. They added on spirit animals and they got cute with it, and half of it doesn't really work with the real animal, right? So you're looking up the traits of the real hawk. So it has hunting skills. So in Europe, we look at it like this. It has hunting skills. It's invisible to the prey until it's ready to attack. So it will do that all of a sudden. So we as people, we would use that if we have that ability. What we gain from it is that we can stay unseen until, if you're hunting and you're shooting an arrow, you're using a blade. Okay, so it's like a lightning bolt. If you're going to move really fast on something. In business, you're going to be really good at assessing everything and moving instantly when you make a decision. So that's hawk energy. So you're going to look at the traits of the animal as an example, and you're going to say, okay, these are the traits that I like that the animal has, so I'm going to use them. These are the traits that the animal has that I don't like, so we leave that alone. Right? But you can consciously incorporate it because it's part of your energy, especially if it's a totem. It's connected to you normally. And it does not have to be an animal that we understand physically, like a fox or a hawk. It could be like, I have a lot of dragons that I deal with. Because again, because you're dealing with thought form. So I've had that connection since I was 5 or 6. So
can you have something like a pig as you're familiar?
Yes, you can. Anything in that kingdom.
Well, you know why I say that? Because people actually have pigs as pets. I mean, living in the city, we don't realize that. But a friend of mine, my dear friend Helen, she was living out in I think it was Santa Cruz or Watsonville, California, and her neighbor had a pig. I mean, it seemed to be a play. As long as you kept it in a lot of mud, it seemed to be very playful. I mean,
and basically, you can. They also consider some familiars that are physical, like somebody has a pet cat, which is the most common one. But or even a pet pig, you can get a lot of connection with the physical animal because they have a lot of empath feelings, so they can connect to you, and the other way around. You'll notice like some people always gravitate towards a cat or whatever the animal is.
Yeah, that's what it seems. I think when we think of familiars, that's what we usually think of as a black cat or something.
Right. But usually if there's a particular animal you're attracted to more than others, it's because you have some of the same traits. So if you look at the animal, like if you look at a fox, if you're walking in the woods and you see a fox,
Tim, Maria, I hate to cut you off, but Tim, we're getting towards the end of the show here. We're just about out of time.
That's right. So we better ask our guest where our listeners can find out more about them. Let's start with Samantha.
Indeed. Hey.
That what?
So, Samantha, where can our listeners find you online and any upcoming appearances, things like that?
Okay, so you guys can find me online if you Google Samantha Scarlette. Scarlette is spelled Scarlette. I should come right up. I'm on Instagram, Samantha Scarlette Music. Twitter is Sammy Scarlette. Basically, I'm on pretty much every platform, and you can find me. Just Google my name.
Can't miss you. Just look for the hottest babe.
Yeah, and then the stuff for my radio show, everything for my radio show is just Blackout with Us. So blackoutwithus.com, Blackout with Us, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. It's all Blackout with Us.
And Maria.
Okay, if you get on my website, it's easy. It's my first and last name. So it's Maria DeAndrea. It's one word. So it's MariaDeandrea.com. That has all my information. And my cell number is 631-559-1248 because sometimes people like to call. And my email address is just my first initial last name. So it's MDANDREA100 @gmail.com.
And if you put my
name into Google, I'm kind of everywhere, so it'll give you the information.
Yeah. And she gives some fantastic readings. And don't forget our YouTube channel, Mr. UFO Secret Files. And this will be up shortly. Our animator, Peter, is... I'm sure going to be working on this right away, and you'll see us live kind of live in your living room. And I want to thank you, both of you, for being on. And Tim,
thank you so much.
Soon. And,
sorry for all the chaos.
Well, the chaos is fun. We could talk about chaos next time. That's
okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend and a Merry Christmas to all.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on exploring the bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the bizarre.